Hello learners, today I am going to discuss the poem We Remain Incorrigible by Alok Menon. So I will start the slide. Here is the text of the poem, which I will be referring to while explaining the poem to you. The main argument, let me start with it first. So the main argument lays out the points. First is gender inclusivity, then recognition of non-binary status, interactions between race and gender, breaking the gender stereotypes, multiple gender identities, and gender diversity. These are some of the main points that Alok Menon emphasizes upon. So their argument establishes on the idea of inclusivity, inclusive space for everyone. Nothing should be exclusive, exclusively masculine, exclusively feminine, exclusively for women or for men as gender identities. Then recognition of non-binary status. Alok Menon shares his perception, shares his shares his emotions, his sentiments, his opinions to have a non-binary representation, a non-binary recognition in the society. They feel that recognizing the non-binary members in the society becomes important to have inclusive society. Then interactions between race and gender. So this point is established through the line when Alok Menon says that individualization or individuality is a thought process, is an idea that the West has inspired. You can see the second line, the hyper-individuation of the West crumbles beneath our feet. So he talks about the race, which is inspiring hyper-individuation at present. And if you look at Alok Menon's interviews, you will see that how they have represented or they have vouched for an India which was very fluid, which was not limited to the heteronormative social structure. It was extremely fluid. It was like an organism that kept accepting multiple point of views, multiple opinions, multiple shades of lives. But after the colonial rule, after the emergence of the British Empire, the queer identities reduced, and the queer people were posed questions. Queer attitude started to be considered as something criminal, something illegal, something sinful. And this was not India's culture. India was an extremely fluid subcontinent. Let's talk about that, India as a subcontinent. So then they talk about breaking the gender stereotypes. So it is Alok Menon represents that society, that portion of the society which has been always sidelined, which has always been marginalized, and they try to break the established gender stereotypes. One thing you have to understand, that once this inclusive society is established, once we as a society recognize every shades of living, every shades of life, every shades of identity, every possibility of gender identities, then the uneven social matrix, the uneven social structure between men and women will no longer exist, will no longer thrive. Once everyone is included, there will be fluidity, there will be a movement, there will no longer be rigidity in the society. There will be no categorization of gender. So automatically, the society will transpire to be great, to be a society which understands the potential of every human being, which recognizes the potential of every human being. Then they talk about multiple gender identities. So Alok Ved Menon uses the pronoun they. So Alok Ved Menon tries or attempts to convey this point that it is essential to uh, address people with the right pronouns. So I will be addressing Alok Ved Menon as they. So they represent, or they talk about multiple gender identities as, as lives are diverse. You can see this line, there are as many ways to exist as there are existences. So this is a very profound line when Alok Ved Menon is saying that there are every possibility of gender identity. As there are multiple lives, there could be multiple gender identities. And the body should not be a sign of gender identity. The body is more than that. The body is not confined to the feelings, to the sentiments, it is not imprisoned. It is free. The body should not carry the symbols of heteronormative uh, identities. Okay, now I will talk about the media, because you have also media in your syllabus, and how media is actually reinforcing the conventional gender identities. So when you think about the magazines, the posters, the uh, you know printed media or digital media, electronic media, you will see that there are certain forms of media which focus on the body. They give primary attention to the body, how the body should appear, how the body should look like. They set the ideal standard of the body, of beauty. They set this conventional standard, they set this cultural standard that this is acceptable, this cannot be acceptable, this is abnormal. But Alok Ved Menon is saying that we should transcend the arbitrary boundaries drawn around our skin. As language is arbitrary, language, the words has no arbitrary connection to the sounds, I'm not talking about onomatopoeia, but as why a chair is called a chair, there is no logical connection to it. The signifier and signified is arbitrarily linked. So bodies and the connection between a body and a soul is arbitrary. It doesn't define our soul, our spirit. So our bodies are just mere suggestions, they are not ordained truths. Just by looking at one's body, you can never know the feelings, the sentiments, the spirit of that person. Alok Ved Menon is asking to break the confines of that body. If you look at Alok Ved Menon, you would see that how they represent themselves. They are looking at them, you would see that uh, they are not segregating or placing themselves into watertight confinements of identity. They are liberating themselves. They are spilling out of the containers. They can't be retained in a particular space. They belong to all the spaces. They are the queer people who question the heteronormative society. So Alok Menon, in the poem We Remain Incorrigible, says that gender is a diverse concept. It is a diverse identity. And they are mentioning that we remain incorrigible, we remain impure and delightfully contaminated. So Alok Menon is not ashamed, not guilty to admit that they remain unreformed. They remain impure according to the conventional social standards. They are actually porous. They welcome transitions. They welcome those refugees. Out here, refugees imply to those people who cannot ascertain or who cannot label themselves into a particular uh, structure, into a particular role, into a particular status or position. They are the vagabonds which do not belong in confined spaces of gender identities. They are the becomings, they are the future, and they are the now. So, because of people like Alok Menon, we can expect that when the society, through their writings, would become aware of the gender diversity, of the gender inclusivity, the gender fluidity, then perhaps in the future, we can expect a society which liberates from heteronormative foundations, which do not perceive the world through binary concepts, which continuously looks for an otherwise, which has a lot more solutions, which is open to change, which is open to acceptance. Now, on this slide, as you can see, I have laid out 16 points explaining the meaning of the poem. So if you feel like, you can take a screenshot of it and later on refer. So another important point which I would like to emphasize is the 9th point, the concept of individuality and how Alok Menon is using the plus sign to imply inclusive atmosphere for the society. So individuality, individuation, this philosophy in the present generation, in the modern age, comes up from the American dream. But please remember that India was way more fluid previously, before the colonization, for the emergence of colonial rule. And India was also very much accepting or, very much open towards transgenders, towards queers, towards non-conformist people, towards prostitution, towards prostitutes as well. But as the colonial rule came in, and they gained agency, they started to, change the mindset. And, earlier, for Indian kings and queens, transgender people used to be there in their court. Then, prostitution was also not looked down upon as a taboo. So Alok Menon is using that how hyper-individuation is crumbling down, how hyper-individuation is being rejected in many societies. But this hyper-individuation, they are breathing this through their lungs. They are rejecting the reasons for heteronormative society. They are saying that biology is liberating them from imprisoned thoughts. See, body can undergo many changes, and biology can be used to exercise or to attain those changes. So you see, body is not a factor of identity. Rather, your own feelings, your sentiments, your emotions, that should be gauged, that should be evaluated. So Alok Vedmanen's poem, We Remain Incorrigible, is actually addressing to the pluralistic, to the diverse needs of non-conformist people, how non-conformist people who do not conform to the gender binaries, they are they are demanding inclusivity, they remain unreformed, they do not want to tame themselves according to the social expectations, the conventional social pattern. Rather, they are thriving, they are looking forward to a change, to a social change. So these are some of the important lines from the poem. Okay, so Alok Vedmanen has asserted their identity, their diverse gender identity, away from the heteronormative boundaries. I hope this lesson was meaningful to you. See you next time. Thank you.